Hello and welcome to another quick episode of 42 Business Principles, Business Growth Principles podcast. So this is not a very long podcast. It really just covers one of the business growth principles every single week. We cover the business principles at 10 a.m. on a Friday morning. And today we're busy with business principle number 2. Number 1, we spoke about marketing being your ultimate leverage. That was a great discussion, and I got some good feedback on that. So thank you very much for those that replied, responded, read, listened, and so on. So today, number 2, the 42 business principles. Just to give you a recap of what this podcast is all about. This podcast really is focused on those business growth principles that are as irrefutable, it would be the right word, as gravity or as friction or as any kind of principle. Even if you work in terms of human psychology, the law of reciprocity. You give, you expect to get back, or people assume. There's a reciprocal relationship in any engagement within the way we operate. If I take someone out for a meal or a drink or a coffee or something like that, there's almost a reciprocal responsibility for that person to do that in return. It's almost written into our DNA. That is a principle. It's a behavioral psychology principle that's built into us, but that's not today's principle. There's a friction, like I said last week. It's every time you jump off the top of the building, you are going to land on the ground. You're not going to jump off and then fly sideways this time and fly the other way that time and then fly up. You're literally going to jump off the building, and every single time you are going to land on the ground. So that is gravity. I mean, that's going to be like, it's irrefutable. So these 42 business principles are irrefutable. You cannot go against them. Try at your peril to go against them. So last week we covered marketing being your ultimate leverage. We spoke about the various aspects of that, and you're welcome to go and re-listen to that episode. The 42 business growth principles for me are critical, and I think if you take these weekly podcasts and you say, if I just implement every week one of these business growth principles, just one, every week, this coming week I focus on it, I put it into practice, and then next week I share another one, and you do the same every single week. If you've missed last week's one, please go back and do watch it or listen to it if it's audio. But this week we are covering the second of the 42 business principles, and that is multiple channels of distribution. Okay, so what does that mean, and how does that apply in our modern world, in the modern way of marketing? Because sometimes people have got this let's call it a premonition, if you like, or an assumption that the principles that used to work 50 years ago no longer apply in our modern society. In fact, it's probably now magnified. It's probably now so much more prevalent, but it is done at such a higher rate and volume that you don't even realize that this principle is being applied. Okay, so let's break it down. Multiple channels of distribution. What do we mean by that? So multiple channels of distribution in marketing, and we're talking here about marketing and business growth. And business growth is about, if you have you got a business, you are in a business development role, and you need to be able to get your message out there. Multiple channels of distribution starts with the premise, and I always laugh, I always smile, that when someone is struggling to make sales and they're struggling to get new clients and customers, and you ask them, so how many people did you actually speak to? How many people did you reach out to this week? And they're going to say, well, maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe 10. I'm not sure, or 100 or 1,000. I mean, I'm not sure how they do it. And then there's different ways of reaching out. I mean, did I send out a batch of 10,000 spam emails? Did I make 5 phone calls? Did I try and link to a few people on LinkedIn? Did I create a few videos and send them out as an approach? Did I attend networking meetings? Did I go into forums and answer a number of questions and answers? Did I go into Quora, for instance, and create a question and provide an answer, and then put that out to market? So multiple channels of distribution starts with the premises that you can't make sales, you can't grow your business, you can't develop anything, you can't grow unless you are reaching people. So multiple channels of distribution means I need to find not just one, but multiple methods of getting to reach out to my clients, reach out to my potential prospects, reach out to my existing clients. And even I'm reaching out to those that I've had previous discussions and communications with and retargeting communication with them. Why? Okay, because we'll get to some other later principles, but a lot of these principles are connected. But one of the things that does seem to happen especially in professional services businesses or B2B or business to business type of environments, but I would say business to consumer or any other type of marketing as well, is strangely enough, and I'm not sure how this works, it's a bit like that law of reciprocity that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, is there's this weird thing that happens, is that if you are communicating with your audience on a regular level, so I'm not just talking about multiple channels, I'm talking about also about regularity of how often you are communicating. Often when you speak to someone for the first time, you are potentially only opening a conversation. You're only starting a relationship. You are not yet at that point where you can consummate a deal. There's some kind of transaction. There's no way you can provide the value and get some value in return without starting a relationship. But the strangest thing is that we have this issue around how many times must I go out and speak to people. The weirdest thing is that within a 2-year period, if you've regularly communicated and this person is in your target market, they are potentially the right kind of person. They follow the bent, which I'll go through at a later stage, but basically they've got the budget, they've got the ability, they've got the decision-making power, they've got the timing is right, etc. All those things are in place. When you meet them the first time, they might not be ready, but in a 2-year period, the weirdest thing is that if you've regularly communicated with that person at the right kind of intervals, with the right kind of messaging, you can potentially have relationships or some kind of connection, even if it's a referral or a business relationship, built with up to 80% of those people that you make communication with, and they fit within your right target audience profile. I'm not talking about the homeless person sitting on the bench, having too much alcohol and so on, because life has been tough. I'm talking about your actual the avatar, the persona, the person that you are targeting, your dream customer, your dream client. If you are communicating over a period of 2 years, you've got up to 80% of them. You will build a relationship. There's no doubt in my mind. What happens a lot with these multiple channels of distribution is that people do one-hit communication. So they'll go out and do a single hit. They'll go out and think, why am I not getting new business? And maybe broadcast in terms of a lot of different channels, and then wait. And this core principle, this one, multiple channels of distribution, is one of, in today's world, if you can just imagine how many types of platforms we have. We've got the more traditional ones, which are, your local community meetings, your chamber of commerce. If you remember the good old days of the chambers of commerce, where they were very, very strong in terms of the community that they had meeting. Chambers of commerce used to be very good with bringing business people together. These days, I'm not so sure that many of them are doing a great job, or even delivering on their actual value statements. But that was a way we used to get together. But in terms of channels of distribution, if you're just doing chambers of commerce, but you're not doing something on, say, Instagram or TikTok or Twitch or any one of the other forums and channels, there are in Facebook, there are multiple groups. You just have to go in and look and search on Google or any of the search engines. You'll find forums where people of the same mind, or who have got the same problem or issue that they're dealing with, are congregating, are getting together. You should be there. You should be looking at, reading through the questions, the answers, getting a sense of your community, and also contributing. The multiple channels of distribution is not out there trying to sell to everybody, but it's about the connection that you are distributing your expertise, you're distributing your knowledge, but in addition, you're just distributing your visibility, because you cannot be successful unless you are actually approaching people. Let's just get that elephant out into the open. But multiple channels of distribution is to select a multiple set of distribution channels that are appropriate to your avatar or your persona that you are trying to reach. If you professional services, which is what a lot of my podcasts and a lot of my communication revolves around, is if you professional services, you want to be in the professional services environment. One of the key things that you must try and do, and I had a really good conversation with a marketing expert this week, and he just reminded me again of if you're a particular type of discipline, or you do a particular type of thing, it's good to know your own community. Your own community can refer you to others, but you can't rely on your own community to be the only source of leads or introductions. So let's say you belong to the post-merger integration, or let's call it some technical, let's call it developers, API code developers community, and you are also a code developer, software developer, and you are attending all these meetings, and you are sharing, and you're having great conversations because they're all the same as you, and you can all talk code, and you can all talk about the next little widget and thing that you've created. That in itself is great, because maybe they have a skill you don't, and you can introduce them, or you have a skill that they don't and they can introduce you. Great place, but can't be the only place. You need to go and expand. You need to say, where are other people that I can meet, get introduced, and start building out relationships, and then sharing value to those people. Now let's continue the coder example. If you can, let's say, write API code, and you can do integrations between different pieces of software, and you're looking for clients, where do you go? You need to find people with problems of integration, surely, and you need to then develop messaging. That's not all about the technical side of things, but it's about the problems and issues that target audience has, and that you can address, fulfill, or fix, or help them with. So if we look at the 42 business principles, first one is marketing is the ultimate leverage. So you must have marketing in place. Number two is the channels of distribution. I would recommend the following few things. The one is decide on the different channels. Now, as an example, if you take the advent of Facebook as an example, and LinkedIn, and you take something like a YouTube and Google and so on, a lot of those technologies are not even 20 years old. Okay, but they've taken over our world to a certain extent. But if you look at the Facebook platform specifically, that is a very difficult platform. It has got a few billion people on that platform. You got trolls, you got some really, really weird wackos on there, and I had no idea that those people even existed until I went onto Facebook. In fact, I feared Facebook at one stage purely because of the weirdos. But there's also some really, really good people. And you need to select and choose your audience very carefully, and you need to be understanding of that platform in terms of using that as a tool, but using that as a specific tool within its boundaries and confines. If you look at LinkedIn, now, I mean, if you take Facebook, people were that are posting their cats, dogs, and their next meal, or a milkshake, or them getting drunk on the beach, or whatever it is. That's Facebook has got a lot of that type of stuff. I mean, and if you're in business to business or your professional services, that kind of thing will put you off. However, Facebook has some incredible advantages in terms of the groups that are built within Facebook. You'll find Facebook will have a large communities being built in terms of Facebook groups. You just have to search them out, see who they are, and move away from the ones that are spammy and always trying to promote, but try and find those let's call it, or genuine, authentic individuals that truly want to add value to each other's lives, or truly have issues and things they're trying to solve, problems they're trying to address. Facebook is good. Facebook can be bad, but Facebook can be very, very powerful if you know how to then use it. So one of my things would be, if you're setting channels of distribution, select a channel, try and understand it, understand how best to use it. And even if you go then to the next step and say, write yourself a little manual, or a to-do, or a guiding principles. I love that concept of guiding principles. So you have 4 or 5 or 6 and say, when I deal with Facebook, these are my guiding principles. If I deal with LinkedIn, now LinkedIn is mostly for, I mean, initially it was started for job search. So people were posting their resumes, their CVs, and HR people, recruitment agents, and job seekers. That was pretty much where LinkedIn started, and it turned then more and more and more into a business platform. LinkedIn has then went and bought, I think, lynda.com, which is an online training business, and they've incorporated that into their professional version, which costs, I don't know, let's say £100, $100 a month. And very powerful, great training, great this. So it's become a really good business platform. When somebody starts posting dating things and, cats and dogs and things like that, they get shunned. Why? Because it's the business community that's on there, and people like that don't have time for that kind of thing. And you'll see that those people either get slated, or they just don't even appear again. So what's nice about LinkedIn is very focused on the business community. It does have a problem recently. There's been a lot of bots or these automated programs that have gone out and sent out spam invites and spam connections, where there's a sequence of messages like, hey, this is, I can get you at the #1 ranking of Google. Here's my my calendar link, and let's set up a meeting, or you know, I loved your profile, it was absolutely brilliant, you do an amazing thing. Very generic, nothing there that's personalized, but very generic message. You're a fantastic person, you're a business leader, it looks like you're the right kind of person to talk to. Click on my link and make an appointment so we can get to know each other. I mean, wow, that's not even a proper, what business person would really be taking that seriously? But there was a proliferation of these spam bots that were just milking that community for a while. So it's become one of those where you become very, you know, when you get these weird messages, you shun them. And now it's very much a personalized thing, which I'm enjoying. Is coming back to its roots, where it's single. It's you do an individual introduction. You research the person. You show that you've actually understood that person, where they're coming from, what they need, and you've made it personal. I'm even liking the video-based LinkedIn approaches, where you could do a personal message to the person. You could even have a screenshot of their website, or maybe of an award they won, or something that's appeared in some kind of publication, to show that you've gone to the trouble to actually understand them as a person. You understand who they are, and even if you do 5 or 10 outreaches in a day, but they're high quality, LinkedIn is incredibly powerful. So that's a channel of distribution. Same thing with Facebook. Again, you can do decent searches. You can do retargeting and so on. Very, very good. YouTube, brilliant search engine. Again, you can do searching and so on, and you can go and find people who have created channels and things like that, and you can join, you can subscribe, you can join, you can get into those conversations and comments down below the videos and start reaching out to people that are potentially fit within your persona, your avatar, that your target customer you're trying to reach. Twitch is a new one. That's great. Twitter, I'm 50-50 on Twitter, for instance. Again, it's great if you can have a set of basic followers. You've got to be very selective in terms of who you speak to, and what kind of messaging you put out there. But it is a very powerful platform. Especially the high-profile people get a lot of press over there. So again, you should be thinking about, how do you become an authority? Can you build a bit of a following, and how can you look for groups that are where your persona, your target audience sits, and then you need to be communicating and so on. So social media means exactly that. It's a social platform. Let's move out from all the social, and let's look at email as a method. Now, email still works. Email is great, but again, it should be targeted, it should be personalized. You can video messaging within email works incredibly well. I would definitely use that as a channel of distribution. I would potentially look at having a target of 5 or 10 or 15 emails, well-researched, settings aside time every day, and saying, that's my target persona, that's the research I've done, there's my quick 1-2 minute video that I've made, and I send out a mail and I introduce myself, and then I have a follow-up sequence. Again, personalized, not spam, not bombarding people with long reams of writing and so on, but it's really as quick as possible to do the introduction, and then to get those introductions into an online meeting environment, or alternatively, not just a meeting environment, but you could even, these days, thankfully, you can, if you're in a similar sort of area, is to meet face to face and to continue the conversation, but to turn it into something personal. You can't do that if you're sending out 10,000 spam emails and you're hoping to hit something. If you are incredibly targeted. So one of the I would say takeaways from today's session would be, for the multiple channels of distribution, would be to say, who is my target avatar? Who am I looking for? What is the demographic? If you go into Canva is a free graphics tool, and you do a search for persona or avatar. I think it even brings up templates of what an avatar should be made up from. So you can go into Canva, create yourself a free account, do a search, and you'll see that even on a one page, it gives you the ability to put, let's say, a photograph of what that target dream customer looks like, just an image of them, and then some of their demographics, psychographics, and some of their personality traits, where they hang out, and so on. And you might have 2 or 3 of these, because you don't want 100. I mean, you can't have 100 different personas you're looking for, but you have the ideal customer profile. Once you've got the ideal customer profile, you then go and find the ideal channel to approach them. Telephone still works incredibly well, but telephone only works well if you, again, do research. You go on LinkedIn, you go on other research tools, you look in media, you try and find out about those people, and rather make 5 or 10 decent phone calls in a day, as opposed to trying to do 200 phone calls. Hello, this is me. Do you want to buy? Yes, no, goodbye. Where you should be rather thinking about the sequence. So this week you phone, hey, it's me. I see you've done this, you've done that. Are you keen to meet? No, thank you. Do you mind if I give you a call again in a month or so? Yes, no problem. Phone in a month. Phone in the next month. Phone in the next month. Remember what I said at the beginning of this podcast. You have this 2-year space where up to 80% of the people that fit within your target profile, if you do the right kind of communication, up to 80% of those people, you'll build a relationship with. I'm not saying you'll do business with all of them, but you'll build a decent relationship with, because what are we really trying to do at the end of the day? We're building a community of our target customer profile by talking to people. We might not be able to sell to them. We are understanding their problems, their issues, the way we can serve them, and the way we can add value to their lives more and more and more. And we're understanding deeper, richer, broader aspects of our personas, or the avatars that we are trying to reach. We can then adjust our products, our services, our approaches, our language. We can understand their language. We can get the lingo, as they say. We can understand what are the key words and issues that are affecting them right now. There might be trends within the industry in your target audience that, if you're not aware of, that could be a downtime part of their season where they're not buying right now. It could be an uptime where they're preparing to buy. And if you're not in the queue at the right time and you phone too late, you have to sometimes wait 3 years before you have an opportunity again. But if you don't understand buying cycles and the language and the culture and the community and so on, and that's why if you get multiple channels of distribution with a very narrow focused niche, which will touch in positioning and unique set propositions and so on later on in further business principles. But multiple channels of distribution is choose a number of channels, and then from there, what you must do is very, very clearly just make absolutely sure that you understand who you're trying to reach, but very clearly understand the frameworks of each one of those different channels. Those channels all have their own personalities, their own styles, and they have their trolls. They have their really grumpy, miserable people that have got nothing else to do in life but make your life miserable. We don't want to engage with those. You'd rather just block and get rid of them. Thankfully, these days, with a lot of the platforms, you can do that. With email, people can unsubscribe and ask please not to be contacted again. Again, please respect and honor that. But those that agree to continue the conversation, build those relationships, because it's all about speaking to multiple people on multiple channels, multiple times. And I think that's the way to end today's podcast. Thank you very, very much for joining me today on 42 Business Growth Principles. Join me next week for our next episode on 42 business growth principles. And I hope and I wish for you great success this coming week.